I was 4 months pregnant and out shopping when Lila Maeve sent me a text. It was a photo. My husband Ethan Voss, who always wore crisp suits, was standing at the stove in an apron, sleeves rolled up, stirring a pot of soup. Lila's sickly sweet, smug voice came through the voice note. Eleanor, thank you for teaching Ethan how to cook. I'm so lucky to get to eat his food now. I taught him. We'd been married 5 years, and he'd never lifted a finger to cook or clean, even when I had a high fever. All he'd done was make me a cup of instant noodles, but now he was cooking for Lila. I froze, distracted. I missed a step on the escalator and went tumbling down. A warm, painful gush flooded between my legs. I clutched my stomach, doubling over in agony. Passers-by swarmed around me when they saw the blood soaking through my light-colored dress, and someone called an ambulance. Thankfully, the mall was only 2 miles from the hospital, and the ambulance arrived quickly, as they loaded me onto the stretcher. The nurse said, "Call your family. Have someone meet us at the hospital." I dialed Ethan's number without hesitation. In this city, he was the only family I had. "Eleanor, what is it? I'm busy. Don't bother me unless it's important." The pain in my lower abdomen was unbearable. But his words hurt worse. My voice was hoarse as I said, "Ethan, I fell." Before I could finish, he scoffed. "Eleanor, when did you become so delicate? Just get up. Why are you making such a big deal out of nothing?" His disdain was loud and clear in the quiet ambulance. Had he forgotten I was 4 months pregnant? "Oh, that's hot. Ethan." Lila's voice cut in, loud and shrill. "Layla, are you okay?" Ethan asked urgently, then snapped at me. "I've got to go. Talk later." Beep, beep. I dropped my phone and closed my eyes, too humiliated to meet the nurse's sympathetic gaze. I lost the baby. I had the surgery alone. They didn't give me anesthesia for the DC. I broke out in a cold sweat from the pain, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I'd struggled with infertility for years. This baby had been my greatest wish. I'd even decorated the nursery already. Every day, I'd dreamed of holding them in my arms. And now they were gone. When I was wheeled back to my room after surgery, the nurse said gently, "If your family can't make it, you should hire a caregiver to help you these next few days." I blinked. I spent 2 days alone in the hospital. On the 3rd day, Ethan finally showed up. And he wasn't there for me. "Eleanor, how could you be so cruel? Can't you at least try to be decent for the sake of your unborn child?" He stormed into the room and threw his phone directly at me. I knew exactly why. An hour earlier, Lila had texted me again. She'd asked me to pick out a pair of men's pajamas for Ethan as a thank you gift for all his kindness. I'd replied with 4 words. "Stupid bitch. Go to hell." Looking at Ethan's furious face, I felt a surge of absurdity. He'd ignored me lying in a hospital bed for 2 days. But the second Lila got a mean text, he'd raced over to yell at me. "Don't you know Lila's been depressed since Jasper died?" he shouted. "And it was just a fall. Why are you even in the hospital? Get up and go apologize to her right now. Make her forgive you." Lila was his childhood best friend, and the wife of his late best friend Jasper. Ever since Jasper died in an accident a year ago, Ethan had been looking out for her so much that he'd drive to her house in the middle of the night at her slightest call. "I had a miscarriage, Ethan." I cut him off, pulling back the covers to show him my now flat stomach. I forced a smile, but tears kept falling. "Our baby is gone." Ethan's face went rigid. His eyes dropped to my stomach. He knew how hard we'd tried for this baby. How could this happen? I closed my eyes and laughed coldly. If Lila hadn't sent me that photo of you cooking for her, I wouldn't have been distracted. I wouldn't have fallen. At the mention of cooking, a flicker of panic crossed Ethan's eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, but someone burst through the door. Lila dropped to her knees beside my bed with a loud thud. Tears immediately streamed down her tiny, delicate face. "I'm so sorry, Eleanor. It's all my fault." She slapped herself hard across the face, eyes brimming with tears. "I just wanted to thank you for teaching Ethan how to cook. I never meant for this to happen. Hit me. Do whatever you want to make yourself feel better. Layla, stop that. Ethan rushed to help her up, his eyes full of concern. Eleanor's not that petty. You're too kind to have meant any harm. Go on outside. Okay, I'll talk to Eleanor. I promise she won't blame you. He spoke to her in that soft, gentle voice I hadn't heard in years. When he came back, there was a hint of guilt in his expression. Lila's depression has been worse these past few days. I've been with her, and I neglected you. We can have another baby once you're better, he said dismissively. Don't be too upset. And don't blame Lila. I know she didn't do it on purpose. My heart turned to ice. After all that, he was still making excuses for Lila. I picked up his phone, the one he'd thrown at me, and hurled it at his head. Get out, Ethan. Get the hell out. He frowned, clearly annoyed, but hesitated for a moment before picking up his phone and leaving without another word. As the door closed, I heard Lila crying and Ethan comforting her. I felt sick to my stomach. That night, Lila came back. She was carrying an insulated lunchbox. Inside was a bowl of greasy, hearty pork hock soup. Eleanor, I had Ethan make this pork hock soup for you, to help you recover. She smiled sweetly and poured me a bowl. I took it hesitantly. I remembered our wedding day. She'd called me Eleanor then too. Smiling that same smile that never reached her eyes, she added casually, I heard all abortions are painless these days. No big deal. Right. I've never had one. Though, did it hurt, Eleanor? I smiled tightly and threw the entire bowl of soup in her face. Oh, Eleanor, she screamed. At that exact moment, Ethan burst into the room. He pulled Lila into his arms protectively and slapped the bowl out of my hand so hard my wrist stung. Eleanor, are you insane? Lila was just trying to be nice. Apologize to her right now. I laughed bitterly. Ethan, are you blind? She was provoking me. It's just a miscarriage. Why are you being so dramatic? She was trying to help you. You're just biting the hand that feeds you. Biting the hand that feeds me. I stared at Ethan, at the anger and disgust on his face. And my heart went completely cold. Ethan hadn't always been like this. We'd met in college, at a campus event. He'd pursued me relentlessly for 6 months. He sent me flowers and gifts on every special occasion. He defended me when a creep harassed me at my part-time job. When my dad was in a car accident, he'd flown straight to my hometown in Atlanta and taken care of him for an entire month. That's when I'd said yes to him. We dated for 4 years before getting married. He'd been so loving, so attentive. But ever since Lila's husband died, he'd changed. He'd stopped being careful with me. I just never thought he'd say something like this. It's just a miscarriage. Get out, I screamed, grabbing the insulated lunchbox and throwing its contents all over both of them. Both of you. Get the hell out of my room. They were covered in greasy soup. Lila's skin turned red from the heat, and she started crying. Ethan, I just wanted to help Eleanor. Crazy bitch. Ethan knocked the lunchbox out of my hand, his eyes cold. Look at yourself. You're acting like a raving lunatic. Why can't you be more like Lila? Let's go. He dragged Lila out, saying anxiously as they left, I'll take you to the doctor. Your skin's so delicate you can't let it burn. He acted like Lila was his wife, like she was the one who'd just lost a baby. What about me? I took a deep breath, but my heart was still racing. Then my phone buzzed. It was Martha, Ethan's mom. Eleanor. Honey, come over for dinner this Saturday. I've missed you. Martha had always been good to me. 2 years ago, when she'd had cancer and Ethan's company was on the brink of collapse, I'd split my days between the hospital and the office. I'd taken care of her and helped him with corporate networking dinners and events. She'd treated me like her own daughter ever since. She always sent me nice things. And she'd always taken my side in arguments with Ethan. I couldn't say no. I'd be discharged by then anyway. I spent the next 2 days alone. Ethan never came back. He only sent one text. Layla's not doing well. I don't want to upset her or you. Take care of yourself. Even now. All he cared about was Lila. On Saturday evening, I arrived at Martha's house. The second I walked in, I heard Lila's laugh. "Aunt Martha, I knew this pearl necklace would look perfect on you." Maggie, the housekeeper, gave me a warning look and whispered, "Mr. Voss brought Miss Maeve over this afternoon." I gripped my purse tightly. When I walked into the living room, there she was, arm in arm with Martha. She was wearing a designer dress, her hair styled in loose curls, and her latest designer handbag was tossed casually on the couch. But as far as I knew, Lila came from a modest background, and Jasper hadn't left her much money. "Eleanor, there you are." Martha's face lit up when she saw me, and she came over to hug me. "I heard you haven't been eating well, so I had Maggie make all your favorite appetizers. I've been waiting for you." I was touched that she'd remembered something I'd mentioned in passing. Before I could speak, Martha frowned, noticing how pale and thin I looked. "Eleanor, you've lost so much weight." Her eyes drifted down to my stomach. I was wearing a fitted top, and my belly was completely flat. "Mom," I said quietly, looking down, "I lost the baby." "The baby? What happened?" Martha's voice rose. She reached for me, concerned, but Lila cut in quickly, looking nervous. "Eleanor fell down the escalator a few days ago." "Aunt Martha, don't blame her. Though, she didn't mean to." Ethan walked out of the study at that moment. He frowned when he saw me, then stepped protectively beside Lila, his voice sharp with warning. "Eleanor, we're here for dinner. Don't start anything." I looked at him sarcastically, then at Lila behind him. "Yeah, I fell, and I lost the baby." Martha looked from me to Lila. After a moment, she reached up, ripped the pearl necklace from her neck, and dropped it at Lila's feet. "Layla," she said coldly, "I let Ethan bring you here because I felt sorry for you after your husband died. I thought you were depressed, but you look just fine to me, so go home. Maggie made a family dinner tonight. Outsiders aren't welcome." Lila's face turned bright red. She picked up the necklace from the floor, grabbed her bag, and ran out crying. "Mom, Lila's like family to us." "How could you say that?" Ethan exclaimed. He turned to me, furious. "If anything happens to Lila, I'll never forgive you." He ran after her, ignoring Martha's shouts for him to come back. Martha and I were left alone. She was seething. "That ungrateful boy," she shouted, pointing at the door. "I don't know how I raised such a fool." I rubbed her back until she calmed down and had a glass of water. Then I sat beside her and told her everything that had happened with Ethan and Lila. She held me as I cried, wiping my tears gently. "He's just like his father," she said finally, shaking her head. "Eleanor, I'm so sorry. I'm on your side. Always. Whatever you want to do, I'll support you." I took a deep breath and said calmly, "I want a divorce." Martha agreed immediately and promised to help me however she could. I drove home alone. Our house was dusty. It was clear Ethan hadn't been back in days. Where had he been? I didn't need to ask. I sat on the couch and called a part-time housekeeper to come clean. While she worked, my lawyer friend who I'd called earlier sent over the divorce papers. I called Ethan. "Eleanor, Ethan's in the shower," Lila said sweetly. I glanced at the clock. It was 11:30 p.m. Put him on the phone. Lila didn't argue. I heard her call Ethan's name, the sound of running water, and Ethan's annoyed voice. "What is it this late?" "It can wait until tomorrow." "I'm so sorry, Eleanor," Layla said coyly. "Ethan's just exhausted from cheering me up today. Maybe you should call back tomorrow." As she spoke, I pulled up Lila's Instagram. She'd posted half an hour ago a photo of 999 white roses, a fancy dinner, and a view of the stars from the top of the mountain. A sharp pain stabbed my heart. "Layla, put me on speakerphone. I have one thing to say." I took a breath and said, "Ethan, I want a divorce." Ethan scoffed. "Eleanor, stop threatening me with divorce. Can't you just be reasonable for once?" I gripped the hem of my dress tightly. "Then expect a court summons." For the next 2 weeks, Ethan thought I was just acting out. He didn't see me But he sent his executive assistant over several times with gifts. Finally, the assistant said, "Mrs. Voss, Mr. Voss is swamped with work and with Miss Maeve's health, but he'll be free soon. I promise." I checked my calendar. The court summons should have arrived at his office that day. That afternoon, Ethan called, panicking. "Eleanor, are you serious about this divorce?" He refused to sign the papers and rushed home immediately. When he saw me sitting on the couch, he said, "Eleanor, I'm not divorcing you." His hair was still damp, and he smelled like strawberry body wash. The scent made me nauseous. "Ethan, you've been cheating on me and you expect me to stay? You're delusional." I threw the divorce papers in his face. "You make me sick." Ethan's face paled. "I'm not cheating. I never slept with Lila. I was at her house showering because I got dirty. That's all." When he saw how cold I was, he finally realized I meant it. He grabbed my hands desperately. "Eleanor, I swear I never touched her. I just felt like I owed it to Jasper to take care of her." Owed it to Jasper. My eyelashes fluttered slightly. Jasper had died doing Ethan a favor. I understood why Ethan felt guilty. I really did. But he'd chosen Lila over me. Over and over again. Even when I lost our baby. "Fine," Ethan said quickly. "If that's what's bothering you, I'll stay away from Lila from now on. Just give me another chance. Eleanor, please. Do you really want to throw away everything we have?" I looked at him. He was still handsome. More mature than he'd been in college. His company was thriving. Maybe I shouldn't be so hasty. I agreed to give him one more chance. At the same time, I asked my lawyer to draw up a post-nuptial agreement that would protect me if he messed up again. And for a while, Ethan really did seem to change. "Layla, we need to keep our distance from now on. I'm married," he said in front of me. Hanging up the phone without listening to her protests, he smiled at me. "I've been learning how to make spicy pork tripe pepper soup. I'll make it for you tonight. Help you get your strength back." He knelt down and pressed his ear to my stomach, his voice full of regret. "Eleanor, I'm so sorry for what I said. I'll never hurt you like that again. I promise." For a split second, my heart softened. This Ethan reminded me of the man I'd fallen in love with. But I couldn't trust him anymore. Once someone shows you their true self, you never forget. For the next 3 months, Ethan was perfect. He doted on me, bought me anything I wanted, and showed me every text and call from Lila. I almost believed he'd changed. Until that night. It was a cold, windy autumn night. 3 months had passed since I'd last seen Lila. Ethan was in the shower, and his phone was on the nightstand. Lila called. Again and again. 10 times. I sipped my hot cocoa and finally answered. "Ethan, Ethan, come get me, please." Layla sounded drunk, and there was loud music in the background. I raised an eyebrow. "Ethan's in the shower. He can't come." I hung up and blocked her number. When Ethan came out, I told him what Lila had said, but I didn't mention blocking her. I watched his face carefully. He said nothing. Finally, he just said, "It's nothing. Let's go to sleep." But something happened to Lila. At 2 a.m., the hospital called Ethan's phone. I woke up to him shaking me roughly. The light was on, and his face was twisted with anger. "Why did you block Lila's number? Do you have any idea what happened to her?" I was still half asleep, confused. But Ethan didn't wait for an answer. He got dressed quickly and left the house without another word. Thunder boomed outside, and it started pouring rain. I followed him to the hospital. I watched him rush into Lila's room. A second later, I heard her crying. "Ethan, I thought you'd left me." "I would never leave you," Ethan said firmly. "Never, Ethan. I don't want to ruin things between you and Eleanor." "You should go." Ethan hesitated when he heard my name, but he pulled her closer. "I've already let Eleanor down. I can't let you down too." I stood in the doorway, watching him hold her tightly as she sobbed. They looked like two lovers torn apart by fate. I quietly recorded the whole thing, then left. This marriage was over. I went home and waited for dawn. Ethan never came back. 7 days later, I saw Lila's latest Instagram post. It was a photo of a positive pregnancy test and her smiling face. The caption read, "No longer alone." A minute later, she texted me, "Eleanor, I'm pregnant. When the baby's born, you should be the godmother." I liked the post and smiled coldly. That day, Ethan came home. He looked guilty when he saw me, but he tried to act normal. Lila tried to kill herself last night. Her depression got really bad. I had to stay with her. "I'm sorry I snapped at you the other night. That was my fault." He set a paper bag on the table. "I brought you your favorite crab roe soup dumplings from that place you love, the one with the long lines that sells out every day." Early in our marriage, he'd waited in line for hours to get me those dumplings. That was a lifetime ago. I knocked the bag off the table. The dumplings spilled all over the floor. "Ethan, I want a divorce." Before he could speak, I added, "Layla's pregnant. Don't you think you should marry her?" The divorce was surprisingly easy. Maybe he felt guilty. He didn't fight me on anything. He gave me all the houses, the commercial properties, and a large stake in his company. He walked away from the marriage with nothing. The day after the divorce cooling-off period ended, we signed the papers. As we left the courthouse, I saw Lila waiting by Ethan's car. She was wearing a new designer dress and carrying a Hermes bag. Her makeup perfect even though she was pregnant. She ran over and linked her arm through Ethan's. "Ethan, we're going to be late for the doctor's appointment." She looked at me smugly. "Eleanor, Ethan got me the best obstetrician in the city. He's in such high demand, we really have to go." When I was pregnant, Ethan had been too busy worrying about Lila's depression to even come to my first ultrasound, let alone take care of me this carefully. I looked at Ethan's regretful face and laughed. Then I slapped Lila hard across the face. The crack was loud and clear. "Enjoy being the other woman, Layla," I said coldly. "And for the sake of that baby you're carrying, try not to be such a terrible person. Otherwise, you might end up losing it too." Layla's eyes filled with tears. She grabbed Ethan's arm. "Ethan, I didn't." "Let's go," Ethan said. He didn't defend her. Instead, he looked at me and said quietly, "Drive safe, Eleanor." Lila bit her lower lip so hard it almost bled. I turned and walked away, smiling to myself. She was covered head to toe in designer clothes and accessories, but she had no idea Ethan couldn't afford to keep her in that lifestyle for much longer. When I got home, Martha called. "Eleanor, did you and Ethan get divorced?" She sounded furious. I was quiet for a moment. "Layla's pregnant." "What?" Martha shouted. "Don't you worry, honey. I'm your mom, and I won't let her get away with this." She hung up. I sat there, feeling a small warmth in my chest. At least someone was on my side. I picked up my phone and made a call. "Dig up everything you can on Lila Maeve. Send it to my email." A month after the divorce, I started selling all my properties. For that entire month, Lila posted non-stop on Instagram. Sometimes she'd accidentally send me her posts. Photos of flowers, fancy dinners, a blurry shot of Ethan's hand wearing a matching ring. It was a pathetic circus act. And it was getting boring. I'd moved cross-country from Atlanta to marry Ethan, and I'd become a stay-at-home mom shortly after. I never built much of a social circle here compared to back home. I decided to sell everything and go home. Then my realtor called, sounding stressed. "Mrs. Hale, there's someone living in your luxury high-rise penthouse." A pregnant woman. A pregnant woman. I raised an eyebrow, grabbed my keys, and drove over. I made another call on the way. "This is my husband's house. You can't sell it. Officer, make them leave." I heard Lila's voice as I walked up to the door. The realtor was standing outside, looking stressed and relieved to see me after being kicked out. "Mrs. Hale, thank God you're here. I'll handle this." I walked into the apartment in my heels. The living room was a mess. Layla was standing there, rubbing her stomach, yelling at the police officer, the property manager, the realtor, and two neighbors who'd come to see what was going on. I already called my husband. "I'm pregnant. If anything happens to my baby, he'll make you all regret it." Husband. She couldn't mean Ethan, could she? I'd heard he'd tried to take her to the Voss family estate a few days earlier, and Martha had slapped both of them and thrown them out. Since when is my house yours? I said, sitting down on the couch. Lila's eyes widened when she saw me. Your house. This is Ethan's house. You're just a bitter old ex-wife. Get out. She lunged at me, trying to push me. I slapped her again, hard. The room went silent. Ethan's house. I pulled the property deed out of my bag and slammed it on the coffee table. Take a look. My name's the only one on it. That's impossible. It's fake. Layla screamed. Fake. I laughed coldly. Didn't Ethan tell you? He walked away from our marriage with nothing. All the houses and properties are mine. Layla, what's going on? Ethan walked in. He froze when he saw me. Eleanor, what are you doing here? Layla ran to him, crying. Ethan, Eleanor's trying to kick me out. I have nowhere to go. I disowned my family for you. Ethan patted her back awkwardly, then looked at me. Eleanor, can't you let her stay here for a little while? She's used to it. It'll be hard for her to move. Sure. I said, if you buy the penthouse from me, that way I don't have to find another buyer. Ethan blinked. You want to sell it? Why? Because this place is contaminated. I said flatly, contaminated by homewreckers and cheating husbands. The room went quiet. The neighbors started whispering. Homewrecker. Oh my God. She's the other woman. I was feeling sorry for her this whole time. That's disgusting. I am not a homewrecker. You're lying. Layla screamed, lunging at me again, but Ethan grabbed her and held her back. He'd lost weight in the past month, and his face was hard and cold. Layla, stop it. He turned to me. Fine. I'll buy it. Name your price. I named a number 20 above market value. Ethan hesitated, then agreed. I called my realtor, who had the contract ready. Lila finally calmed down. See, Eleanor, she said smugly, Ethan cares about our baby more than anything. Does he? I said, signing the contract. That's funny. Considering it's not even his baby. Lila's face turned white. That's not true. You're just jealous. You're making this up. She started crying again. Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. Eleanor, she's pregnant. There's no need for this. I smiled coldly. Just then, the door burst open. You little homewrecker. A designer Louis Vuitton bag hit Lila square in the face. A woman in her 40s with curly hair stormed in, dragging a beaten-up young man behind her. She saw Lila and grabbed her by the hair, slapping her hard twice across the face. Layla looked terrified. Mrs. Carter, what are you doing here? I'm here because Eleanor told me where you were, you little tramp. Mrs. Carter shouted. Ethan stepped between them, confused. Who are you? You can't just come in here and hit people. Mrs. Carter laughed bitterly. Who am I? I'm the wife of the man she's been sleeping with, the man whose baby she's carrying. She pushed Lila to the floor. You thought you could steal my husband and get away with it. I'm going to take everything back from you, and you're going to jail. Ethan stared at Lila, horrified. Layla, what is she talking about? It's not true. She's lying. Eleanor paid her to say this. Layla screamed, her face streaked with tears and blood. Mrs. Carter turned to her husband. Show him the photos. The man, his face still bruised, pulled out his phone and showed Ethan the screen. There were dozens of explicit photos of him and Lila. It turned out that while Ethan was trying to make things right with me, Lila had started an affair with Mr. Carter. He'd spoiled her rotten, buying her all the designer clothes and bags. But when she found out he was just a broke guy who lived off his wife's money, she'd gone running back to Ethan. She'd never broken up with Mr. Carter. Thufsh just kept seeing him on the side, and the baby was his. Ethan swayed on his feet. He looked at me, stunned. You knew about this. I said nothing. He looked at Lila, lying on the floor, and his face turned from white to green. He turned and walked out without a word. Ethan, wait. Ethan, Layla screamed, scrambling to her feet, but he pushed her away. Layla, Don't ever talk to me again. You make me sick. He left. Mrs. Carter glared at her husband and Lila. I'm taking back every single thing he bought you. And you, she said to Lila. You're going to prison for fraud. At the word prison, Lila collapsed to the floor. A pool of blood spread beneath her. It hurts. It hurts so bad, she whimpered. I watched, cold and unmoved. I'd warned her. Lila lost the baby. A few days later, she was served with a court summons from Mrs. Carter, who was suing to get all her money back. Lila had been a small social media influencer, but when her affair went viral, all her accounts were banned. She spent 7 days alone in the hospital. Ethan never came to see her. Instead, he started waiting outside my house every day. Eleanor. I'm so sorry. I see now how wrong I was. It was all Lila's fault. I'm taking back everything I ever gave her. He'd reclaimed every gift he'd ever given Lila, and he was trying to win me back. I ignored him. When I sold the last of my properties, I booked a flight back to Atlanta. Before I left, I went to see Martha at the Voss family estate. Eleanor, I'm so glad you came to see me. Martha had made dinner for me, but she looked much older than she had just 2 months ago. I told her I was moving back home. She nodded sadly. You do what's best for you. Just call me every now and then, especially on holidays. Okay. Ethan was a fool to lose you. We didn't talk about Ethan much after that. Then the phone rang. It was the police. Ethan had been hit by a car. The driver was Lila Maeve. Martha fainted. I helped her up and drove her to the hospital. Lila had lost everything, and she blamed Ethan. She'd intentionally crashed her car into him, trying to take both of them down with her. She'd failed. Ethan was alive, but he was in the ICU, and he'd had to have one of his legs amputated. Layla was under arrest. Karma, Martha whispered, crying. This is all karma for what he did to you, Eleanor. I comforted her, then went to see Ethan. He was unconscious, hooked up to machines. I hid the tiny smile that tugged at my lips, then turned and left. It was karma. All right. I'd posted every single one of Ethan's pathetic attempts to win me back on Instagram, and I'd never blocked Lila. I'd made sure she saw every single post. My phone rang. It was my mom. Claire. Eleanor. Honey, what time does your flight land? Your dad's making all your favorite food for dinner. I checked my watch and smiled as I walked out of the hospital. I'll be home by tonight, Mom. And with that, I closed the door on that chapter of my life forever.